You feel it, don't you? A strange, quiet shift happening deep inside your mind. You look at your phone and feel no desire to reply. You look at the people you used to desperately try to please, and you feel absolutely nothing. The conversations that once consumed you now bore you. The approval you once craved now disgusts you. You sit in your own silence, and for the first time in your life, you do not reach for someone else to fill it. It feels like your old life is completely falling apart, and it terrifies you because nobody around you understands what is happening, and honestly, neither do you. Society looks at your sudden withdrawal and calls it depression. Your family tells you to snap out of it. Your remaining friends tell you to reconnect, to stop isolating, to go back to being the compliant, agreeable, nice person you used to be. They tell you this because your silence unnerves them. They tell you this because your emotional independence threatens the very system that fed off your compliance. They tell you this because they are absolutely terrified of the monster you are quietly becoming. If you feel entirely disconnected from your past but uncertain about your future, do not move. Do not panic. Do not crawl back to the people and patterns that were slowly killing you. You are not breaking down. You are breaking out. And today, we are going to decode Machiavelli's dark psychology and the science of positive disintegration to reveal the 5 brutal signs that your life is not falling apart. It is quietly shifting into absolute power. It was written for you, right now, in this exact moment of your life, because what you are experiencing, this internal earthquake that is dismantling everything you thought you were, is not destruction. It is the most dangerous and necessary transformation a human being can undergo. You are introducing a new order of things inside yourself, and Machiavelli warned you, it will be difficult, it will be perilous, and everyone around you will resist it. Not because your transformation is wrong, but because your transformation makes their manipulation of you impossible. Here is what dark psychology reveals, and what no one in your life will ever tell you. The system, your social circle, your workplace, your family dynamics, they were never designed to help you become powerful. They were designed to keep you useful, predictable, emotionally available on demand. Your niceness was never a virtue they admired. It was a resource they exploited. And the moment you began to withdraw that resource, the moment your emotional labor stopped flowing freely, the entire structure built on your compliance began to shake. That shaking is not your life falling apart. That shaking is the sound of a cage breaking open. What if the feeling of your life falling apart is actually the feeling of your chains finally breaking? What if every friendship that faded, every social obligation that now repulses you, every moment of silence that society calls loneliness is actually the exact mathematical formula for acquiring something they never wanted you to have? Absolute, unchallengeable Machiavellian power. That is what this video will prove to you. Not with motivational platitudes, not with feel-good affirmations, but with the 5 brutal, undeniable signs that the universe is violently restructuring your existence for dominance. By the end of this video, you will not just understand what is happening to you. You will know exactly how to weaponize it. You will possess a framework of strategic detachment so precise, so ruthless, so psychologically devastating to anyone who ever underestimated you, that going back to your old life will feel like volunteering for prison. If these ideas resonate with you, hit that subscribe button for more top-tier content. Also, drop the shift in the comments so I know you're ready. Let's dive in. The first brutal sign that your life is shifting into absolute power is this. You have lost your tolerance for nonsense, completely, irreversibly, and it happened almost overnight. You used to sit through conversations that drained you. You used to smile at people who disrespected you to your face, and then replay the interaction in your head for hours, wishing you had said something, wishing you had stood your ground. You used to tolerate mediocrity, dishonesty, and emotional manipulation because you were taught that patience is a virtue and confrontation is rude. You absorbed their toxicity like a sponge and called it being understanding. You let people cross your boundaries and called it keeping the peace. That version of you is dying, and you can feel it. Now, when someone wastes your time, something inside you does not negotiate. It does not rationalize. It simply shuts the door. You are not angry about it. You are not bitter. You are just done. You look at behaviors you used to excuse, and you feel a cold, detached clarity that says, I will never allow this again. Not because you hate them, but because you have finally calculated the cost of your own tolerance, and the invoice is astronomical. This is the first sign of what psychologists call positive disintegration. Your old psychological structure, the one built on people-pleasing, on fear of abandonment, on the desperate need to be liked, is literally falling apart at the molecular level. And it must, because that structure was never yours. It was installed in you by every person who benefited from your compliance. Every authority figure who taught you that being good means being quiet. Every manipulator who trained you to believe that your needs are secondary. Machiavelli understood this with surgical precision. He observed that the tolerant man is the most exploited man in any court. The one who endures everything becomes the one who receives everything, every insult, every burden, every thankless task. Your tolerance was not strength, it was an open invitation for the ruthless to take everything from you while smiling. The universe does not negotiate. When it wants you to level up, it violently removes your comfortable distractions. And right now, your comfort zone is your tolerance for people and situations that have been silently draining your potential for years. Your nervous system is not malfunctioning, it is recalibrating. It is telling you, with absolute biological authority, that the energy you have been hemorrhaging on unworthy people is the exact energy required to build your empire. But the death of tolerance is only the first symptom. Wait until you understand what happens next. Because when your tolerance dies, something far more terrifying begins. The people who fed on it start to leave, and that spontaneous purge is the second sign. The second brutal sign that your life is quietly shifting into absolute power is the mass exodus. People are leaving your life, and you are not chasing them. Think about this. You used to be the one who held every relationship together. You were the one who texted first. You were the one who apologized even when you did nothing wrong. You were the one who organized, who checked in, who sacrificed your own plans to accommodate their chaos. You were the glue, the emotional infrastructure, the unpaid therapist. And now that you have stopped performing that role, look what happened. They vanished. Not slowly, not with explanation. They simply evaporated the moment your utility expired. And that right there should tell you everything you need to know about what those relationships actually were. They were not built on respect. They were not built on loyalty. They were built entirely on your willingness to give and their willingness to take. You are not losing friends. You are finally shedding parasites. I need you to sit with that for a moment, because your conditioned mind, the old programmed version of you, is screaming right now. It is telling you that you are being selfish, that you are pushing people away, that isolation is dangerous, that you need to reach out, reconnect, make things right. That voice is not your intuition. That voice is the manipulation talking. That is the software installed by every person who needed you to remain accessible, agreeable, and exploitable. Machiavellian strategy teaches a principle that will redefine how you see this moment. A leader's power is not measured by how many people surround him. It is measured by how many people he can afford to lose. A king does not panic when the peasants leave his court. He enjoys the silence, because the silence means the leeches have detached and the throne is finally his alone. Your social circle was not purged by accident, it was purged by design. The dark psychology behind this is elegant. When you stop being the source of emotional supply, you trigger a narcissistic injury in every person who was covertly using you. Their departure is not rejection, it is a confession. They are telling you without words that they never valued you, they valued your function. And now that the function has ceased, they have no reason to stay. Let that liberate you instead of devastating you. Stop trying to revive relationships that God, the universe, and your own nervous system are desperately trying to kill. I'm going to explain exactly why this purge is essential for your ascension into Sigma male psychology and strategic dominance. But first you need to understand the third sign, because after the purge, after the exodus, something far stranger begins. You start craving something that society has taught you to fear more than almost anything else. And if you try to resist this next phase, you will abort the entire transformation. Listen closely. The third brutal sign that your life is shifting into absolute power is the most misunderstood of all. You are developing an unshakable, almost obsessive craving for solitude. Not loneliness, solitude. There is a chasm of difference between the two, and understanding that difference is the key that separates the broken from the becoming. Loneliness is the pain of feeling disconnected against your will. Solitude is the strategic withdrawal of your presence from a world that does not deserve it. Loneliness is a cage. Solitude is a fortress. You are not lonely. You are under construction. And the construction site of an empire does not allow tourists. You find yourself declining invitations you once would have begged for. You sit in your room for hours, not out of sadness, but out of a strange magnetic pull toward your own thoughts. You wake up and the idea of filling your day with other people's noise feels physically repulsive. You want silence. You want depth. You want the kind of thinking space that only comes when every external voice is muted, so you can finally hear the one voice that matters, yours. This urge for shadows is not pathology. It is preparation. Dark psychology reveals that every individual who has ever accumulated significant power went through a period of deliberate, often brutal, social withdrawal. Machiavelli himself wrote his greatest works in exile, banished from the courts of Florence. It was in that isolation, not in spite of it, that he decoded the mechanics of power that would influence rulers for 500 years. His darkness created the light of his genius. Your darkness is doing the same. What you are experiencing is ego death. The old ego, the one built on external validation, on social proof, on the dopamine hits of likes and invitations and approvals, is starving. You have cut off its supply, and it is thrashing, gasping, telling you that something is terribly wrong, that you need to go back to the noise, that you are wasting your life in the dark. Ignore it. Let it die. Because on the other side of that ego death is a version of you that does not need a single person in any room to feel powerful. A version of you whose confidence is not borrowed from applause, but forged in absolute, unbreakable silence. Machiavelli knew that before a man can rule an empire, he must first become completely comfortable ruling an empty room. Your craving for solitude is your psyche rehearsing for sovereignty. Every hour you spend alone is an hour the new architecture of your mind solidifies without interference, without contamination, without the opinions of people who never built anything lecturing you on how to build everything. This is the sign that terrifies the people around you the most, because a person who is comfortable alone is a person who cannot be controlled. You cannot threaten someone with abandonment if they have already made peace with an empty room. You cannot manipulate someone with exclusion if solitude is their chosen weapon. You cannot leverage social pressure against someone who has willingly exited society's game and is building their own. Watch what happens to your mental clarity, your focus, your strategic thinking, your ability to read people with devastating accuracy once you stop resisting the shadows and let them teach you. This is where your weaponized detachment begins to harden into something permanent. But there is a fourth sign that takes this even further. This is the sign that 99% of people mistake for arrogance, for coldness, for dysfunction. I will show you why it is actually pure, undiluted power, and why it is the trait that makes Machiavellian strategists untouchable. The fourth brutal sign that your life is shifting into absolute power is the arrival of emotional detachment so complete, so total, that it scares even you. You notice it in small moments first. Someone says something designed to provoke you, and you feel nothing. A situation that would have sent the old you into a spiral of anxiety barely registers as relevant. You watch people around you erupt in emotional chaos over things that now seem absurdly insignificant to you, and you observe them the way a general observes a distant battlefield. With calm, with calculation, without a single wasted heartbeat. This is not numbness, this is not depression, this is the psychological phenomenon known in Machiavellian strategy as emotional sovereignty. It is the moment your nervous system stops reacting and starts observing. It is the moment you transition from participant to architect, from pawn to player, from someone the world happens to into someone who happens to the world. If people say you have changed, say thank you. It means the old exploitable version of you is officially dead. Your emotional detachment is not a deficiency. It is an upgrade. Consider the dark psychology of human social dynamics for a moment. Who holds the power in any interaction? The person who cares less, who controls the negotiation, the party willing to walk away. Who dominates the relationship? The one whose emotional investment is lower. This is not cynicism, this is physics. Emotional energy flows from high pressure to low pressure, from the invested to the indifferent, from the desperate to the detached. And you have just become the lowest pressure system in every room you enter. This is Sigma male psychology in its purest expression. Not the performative indifference of someone pretending not to care, but the authentic, bone-deep detachment of someone who has recalculated the value of every emotional investment in their life and found most of them bankrupt. You are not acting cold, you are being efficient, you are not being heartless, you are being strategic. You have simply realized that your emotional energy is a finite, precious, strategic resource, and you have been spending it on people and situations that offered a 0% return. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must learn to be not good, not because goodness is weakness, but because the refusal to deploy strategic coldness when necessary is the fastest path to destruction. Your old self gave emotional energy freely. Your old self bled empathy onto people who stored it in jars and used it as leverage against you. Your old self confused emotional availability with strength, when in reality it was the most expensive vulnerability you possessed. Your new detachment is not cruelty, it is the correction of a lifelong miscalculation. You are simply redirecting the river of your emotional energy away from those who wasted it and toward the only project that deserves it: yourself, your vision, your empire. Here is the tactical advantage your emotionally reactive competitors will never have. While they are consumed by drama, outrage, jealousy, and the exhausting theater of social approval, you are operating in a state of strategic silence so profound that your clarity alone becomes a weapon. You see moves before they are made. You read intentions before they are spoken. You respond with precision while others react with panic. Your apathy is not your weakness. It is your armor, and it is the fourth sign that the old world is losing its grip on you. You probably still feel the urge to explain yourself to people, the urge to justify your withdrawal, the urge to prove you are not broken. In the next section, I will kill that instinct forever. Because the fifth and final sign is the one that seals the transformation. It is called the clarity of the void, and it is where you become truly untouchable. The fifth and most brutal sign that your life is shifting into absolute power is the moment you stop needing answers from anyone but yourself. You enter a state of mental clarity so sharp, so absolute, so frighteningly lucid that it feels like you have been living your entire life underwater and you have just broken the surface. Your mind becomes quiet. Not the anxious quiet of suppression, not the forced quiet of meditation, but the natural, effortless quiet of a mind that has finally expelled every voice that did not belong to it. The opinions of your parents, the expectations of your peers, the invisible rulebook of society that told you what success looks like, what happiness requires, who you should be, and what you should want. All of it gone. Evaporated, and in its place a void so powerful it generates its own gravity. This is the clarity of the void, and it is the most dangerous state a human being can achieve. Because a person with this clarity cannot be sold a lie, cannot be recruited into someone else's agenda, cannot be distracted by manufactured urgency or seduced by cheap validation. You see through conversations the way an architect sees through walls. You see the load-bearing structures, the hidden supports, the weak points that no one else notices because they are too busy performing the roles they were assigned. Dark psychology teaches that the most powerful person in any social system is not the loudest, not the most charismatic, not the most connected. It is the most observant, the one who sees everything and reveals nothing. The one whose silence makes others fill the air with confessions, the one whose stillness forces the anxious to expose their strategies. You are becoming that person, and it is not an accident. It is the final stage of your positive disintegration. Everything you lost was preparing you for this. The tolerance you shed cleared the noise. The people who left removed the distortion. The solitude carved the space. The emotional detachment eliminated the interference. And now, standing in the void they all left behind, you can see with perfect, terrifying, crystalline precision exactly who you are, exactly what you want, and exactly what you are willing to do to get it. This clarity is what Machiavelli called virtù. Not virtue in the moral sense, virtù in the strategic sense, the ability to read circumstances with perfect accuracy and act with decisive, ruthless precision. It is the quality that separates rulers from the ruled, architects from laborers, strategists from victims, and it only emerges after the fire, after the loss, after the ego death, after the void. Stop for a moment and calculate the energy you wasted over the last 5 years seeking approval from people who never once sought yours. Calculate the hours lost replaying conversations with people who forgot about you before they reached their car. Calculate the emotional bandwidth consumed by relationships that existed solely because you were afraid of the emptiness. Now look at what the emptiness gave you. It gave you back yourself. The uncontaminated, undiluted original version of yourself that existed before the world told you who to be. Your disengagement from their world is your most powerful engagement with your own. Your silence is not absence, it is presence. Total, concentrated, weaponized presence directed at the only life that matters, yours. At the very end of this video, I will give you the exact framework to never look back at your old life again. But first, understand this. The clarity of the void is not a destination, it is a launch pad. What you do from this point, how you wield this detachment, how you deploy this silence, how you architect your next chapter with the strategic precision of a Machiavellian master, that is what determines whether this transformation makes you powerful or merely makes you alone. And I am not going to let you settle for alone. You have just walked through the 5 brutal signs that your life is quietly shifting into absolute power. The death of tolerance, the spontaneous purge, the urge for shadows, the armor of apathy, the clarity of the void. 5 stages that society calls a breakdown, and that every sovereign mind in history recognized as a breakthrough. You were not falling apart. You were being restructured. Every friendship that dissolved was a wall being demolished to make room for a cathedral. Every moment of loneliness was the silence between demolition and construction. Every flash of emotional numbness was your nervous system upgrading from civilian software to strategic hardware. You were never broken. You were being built into something the old version of you could not have comprehended, and the people who exploited you will never be able to control. Here is your final challenge, and I will not soften it for you. Stop mourning the person you used to be. That person was a product of other people's needs. That person was a character written by hands that were not yours, performing in a story that benefited everyone except you. That person had to die so that you could live. Not the sanitized, socially acceptable version of living where you perform happiness for an audience. Real living, sovereign living. The kind of living where your choices are yours, your energy is yours, your silence is yours, and your power is untouchable because it was forged in the one fire that no external force can replicate. The fire of losing everything that was never really yours. Let the old self burn entirely. Do not rescue a single piece of it. Do not preserve a single relationship out of guilt. Do not retain a single habit out of comfort. Let it all go. Because what is coming for you, what is being built in the void right now as you listen to these words, is worth more than everything you lost combined. And it will last, because it is built on the only foundation that cannot be shaken. You. If you felt this video reach into the part of you that no one else acknowledges, the cold, strategic, quietly furious part that is done being exploited, I want you to type one phrase in the comments right now. Type "the shift," not because I told you to, but because saying it aloud, even in text, is a declaration. It is the moment you officially stop identifying as the person who was used and start identifying as the person who will never be used again. Type it, mean it, and then watch how differently you carry yourself tomorrow. Now listen, if this is the first time you have found this space, understand what you have stumbled into. This is not a channel. This is an arsenal. Every video here is a weapon of psychological liberation, designed for one specific type of mind. The mind that was too intelligent for the lies it was fed, too perceptive for the manipulation it endured, and too powerful for the small life it was assigned. If you are that mind, and the fact that you are still here proves you are, then subscribe, not for entertainment, not for motivation, for strategic advantage. Because what we do here, week after week, is dismantle the psychological cages that society builds around its most dangerous minds. And yours is next. Hit subscribe. Join the silent strategists who are building empires while the world wastes its energy on noise. And whatever you do, do not stop now. The video on your screen right now was chosen for a reason. It contains a strategy so precisely calibrated to where you are in this transformation that skipping it would be like walking away from the final piece of a map that leads to your empire. Click it, watch it, and let it finish what today started. I will see you there. See what others miss, know what others fear, become who others can't.